The desert sky trembled. 6 fighter jets streaked through the dusk, afterburners blazing, weapons locked. Below them, a lone Apache rose from the valley, scarred and smoking yet refusing to fall. Warning sirens howled in the cockpit. Enemy pilots laughed on the open channel, certain their kill was seconds away. Then came a sound they never expected. Laughter, cold, confident, echoing through their radios like a dare. Seconds later, fire streaked across the sky. A jet exploded into burning fragments, the others scattering in shock. What should have been an execution turned into chaos. Who was inside that helicopter? And how did she turn the hunters of the sky into prey? Before we begin, tell us where are you watching from, and if you believe honor and courage still matter. Help keep their legacy alive. The desert sky trembled. 6 fighter jets streaked across the dusk, afterburners carving orange scars through the fading light. Below them, a single Apache rose from the canyon floor, its hull scorched, its rotor echo steady as a heartbeat. Inside the cockpit, Captain Rowan Wraith Pierce watched her radar bloom red. 6 hostile signatures, closing fast, fanning like claws around a wounded animal. The comms crackled with arrogance. 1 chopper. Done in 30 seconds. She didn't answer. Her breath stayed slow. Then, through the open channel, her voice came calm, cutting, followed by a sound no one expected. Laughter, cold, confident, and alive. A second later, a streak of fire crossed the sky. 1 jet became falling debris. The desert swallowed the echo. On the ground below, Bison 6, a trapped special operations team, huddled behind a wall of shattered boulders. The radio hissed with panic. "We're down to sidearms! They're climbing the ridge!" Someone coughed blood. Another tried to keep pressure on a wound. Their extraction clock ticked. T-minus 4 minutes. 30 seconds. Rowan's gloved fingers brushed the worn photo taped beside her altimeter. Her father, Colonel Samuel Pierce, stood there in his flight suit, smiling in black and white. His old words lived under her breath. "Everyone thinks helicopters run. They forget a hawk kills from below." The Apache climbed through turbulence, rotors biting thin air. Warning tones blared, but Rowan muted them. "Overlord, this is Wraith. Bison 6 still in contact." Static answered. Then a tight voice. "Abort. Wraith. 6 enemy aircraft inbound." "That's suicide." "Negative," she said. "They don't die until I stop flying." Her right hand armed the Hellfires. 10 icons lit green. The canopy shook under crosswind. Sand tore across the valley like smoke. Her eyes never left the scope. T-0400, 2 MiG-29S dove from altitude. Standard Predator formation, perfect lines. They expected her to hide. Instead, she pulled hard on the cyclic, pitched nose up, and broke above the ridge. Lock tone. Launch. 2 Hellfires spat light. The missiles met the lead MiG mid-turn. The detonation lit the canyon like dawn. Shrapnel rained in silver arcs. The second jet wobbled, veered, and vanished behind the ridge. On comms, enemy chatter broke into static. Bison 6 eyes up, Rowan called. "You've got breathing room," a strained voice answered. "Copy. Reaper, 1 minute of life left here." She leveled the Apache just as 2 Su-27S broke high and wide, trying to split her. Radar screamed a dual lock. She dropped altitude, rolling into the shadows, blades less than 50 feet from stone. Dust blasted outward as she dove under the ridgeline. Tone. Acquire. Fire. Her Stinger missile leapt from the wing, screaming toward the sun. 1 Su-27 disintegrated in a fireball above her. The second pilot banked away, lost her mark. Rowan's jaw set. 4 left. "Down below! Bison 6's medic called over radio. We've got 2 criticals. Blood's gone. Please keep them off us." Her HUD flickered. Hydraulic pressure dipped. She steadied the stick with both hands, forcing the Apache to climb again. The horizon bled red as the sun dropped. The air thinned. Her father's voice echoed again. A single memory 16 years old on a Kansas airfield, watching him draw diagrams in the dust. They study doctrine, not instincts. Show them something they've never seen, and they'll freeze. T-0300. Rowan popped up again, cresting the ridge. The MiG that had fled earlier returned, blazing in from her 6. She flipped the Apache inverted nose to nose. The 30mm chain gun thundered. Rounds tore through the jet's canopy. The explosion split the clouds. The recoil shook her harness. Smoke trailed from her right engine, cowling. She checked RPM within green, but barely. Still flying, she muttered. The comms lit again. A new voice this time. Calm. Deep. "This is Manticore. You've killed my wingmen. That ends now." Rowan's lip curled into a thin smile. "You can try." The radar pinged 3 signatures regrouping, one hanging back. Their pattern was clean, disciplined. Too clean. She recognized it immediately, the same geometry her father had designed in Sparrow method training. Above her, contrails twisted into a wide spiral. Below, Bison 6 fought to stay alive. In the cockpit, every gauge screamed for mercy. She looked at the photo one last time, then at the countdown clock, T0250. Her whisper barely carried over the rotor hum. "All right, Dad, let's hunt." The Apache tilted nose forward, diving straight into the sun, where the 6 hunters waited, unaware that their prey had just turned predator. The sky boiled with contrails. 4 fighters cut through the upper layers, their wings flashing silver in the dying light. From the valley floor, the Apache looked impossibly small, one black cross rising into the glare. Captain Rowan Wraithpierce adjusted her throttle, watching the radar bloom with converging red dots. The tone of an incoming lock shrieked through her headset. She exhaled once and banked left into the sun. 2 missiles launched in perfect sequence. Trails curved like white spears toward her. Rowan dropped low, flaring chaff that burst behind her canopy like glittering dust. The missiles struck the ridge, detonating with twin fireballs that rippled heat through the canyon. "Overlord, they're firing blind," she reported. A curt voice snapped back. "Wraith, break contact. You can't hold airspace with that damage." Rowan ignored it, eyes flicking between altimeter and heat signature. "Copy transmission," she said quietly, then killed the channel. "Below." Bison 6 moved deeper into the rocks. The team leader's voice cracked on the comms. 2 left breathing. Extraction clocks red. In the background, wind howled through shattered stone. Their beacons sputtered and died. At 8,000 feet, the Apache trembled. Air thinned. Instruments fluttered. Rowan adjusted trim with her knee, fighting the shudder. Her father had trained her for this ceiling, the gray zone no simulator ever modeled. The place where control depended on instinct alone. The first Su-27 dropped from altitude, its cannon lighting the air like lightning. Rowan let it chase a ghost. She hugged the ridge, engine wash kicking dust, then flared up without warning. Her hellfire caught the fighter's belly mid-dive. The jet vanished in a flash of vaporized fuel. A roar of disbelief filled the open frequency. How was she still alive? Rowan didn't answer. The Apache rolled, black against crimson sky, rotors cutting through smoke. 5 left, she murmured. Her radar pinged twice, 2 new shapes breaking formation. The enemy had adapted. They were moving wider, faster, learning from her moves. She saw the pattern unfold like a puzzle textbook Soviet pincer, mirrored perfectly. But then came something else. The 3rd signature moved differently. Precise. Calculated. Manticore. He approached from above and behind, using the glare of the sun as shield. Rowan caught a faint shimmer on the canopy glass, a reflection that shouldn't be there. She banked right, pulling negative Gs as cannon fire ripped across her tail boom. The Apache groaned, hydraulics spiking red. A warning tone howled. She silenced it with one tap, jaw tight. "Come on, hold together." Her display blinked. 3 remaining hellfires, 2 stingers. The fight was turning into math. Below, Bison 6's medic yelled into the radio. "They're breaching the ridge 40 meters. Another voice, we can see muzzle flashes we can't hold." Rowan's reply was steady. "Then stop watching the ridge. Watch the sky." She yanked the cyclic. The Apache climbed in a spiral, blades screaming. The desert blurred beneath her, gold and black. 1 MiG-29 dove head-on. She triggered a hellfire without breaking climb. The missile curved like a thrown spear, colliding mid-air with the MiG's nose cone. A ball of flame rolled across the horizon. Her HUD glowed red again. RPM droop warning. The rotor's green band was narrowing. She had only seconds of maneuver left before losing lift. Then, through the static, Manticore's voice returned. "Your father wrote good doctrine," he said evenly. "But you forgot one thing, someone else can learn it." Rowan froze. The flight patterns she'd seen wasn't coincidence. The spacing, the cadence, it was Sparrow method, executed in reverse. Manticore wasn't improvising, he was using her family's playbook. "How do you know that name?" she asked. "Because I studied it." Colonel Pierce's papers made fine reading. Her stomach turned cold. For a second, she felt the weight of betrayal, a lifetime of her father's notes, once dismissed by command, now flying under an enemy flag. "Then let's see how well you learned it." She pitched nose down, forcing Manticore to follow. Both aircraft plunged toward the desert floor at insane speed. Bison 6's leader looked up from the rocks and saw two streaks carving toward the valley. "She's dragging him down," he whispered. Rowan waited until the jet's nose almost crossed her crosshairs. Then she fired her second Stinger close range. Dead center. The missile missed by inches but forced Manticore into a barrel roll that shredded his formation. He cursed in another language. Rowan caught the tone, not the words. Panic. The rest of his wings scattered. She leveled out at treetop height, dust spiraling from the rotors. Every gauge bled into yellow. She whispered to herself, 2 minutes left. Make it count. Above her, the sun dipped lower, setting the sky ablaze. The duel had changed. The hunter had become the teacher, and the lesson wasn't over yet. The sun burned low, bleeding across the desert like an open wound. The Apache skimmed the ridgeline, every motion heavy, every warning light screaming. Captain Rowan Wraith Pierce could feel the machine shaking under her boots, metal straining, rivets rattling like bones. Her radar showed 3 survivors, 2 Su-27s closing from the east, and Manticore circling high like a hawk. The air was thin, her hydraulic pressure in the red. She tapped the gauge once, muttering, "Stay with me! From below!" Bison 6 shouted over the comms, "They're in the trench 40 meters!" Another voice broke through the static, raw with fear. "We're out of ammo." The sound of rifles clicking empty filled her headset. Rowan drew a breath that scraped her lungs. This is it. She remembered her father's final notebook entry, 4 words etched in grease pencil. Courage finishes the equation. Her lips tightened. Manticore dove first, roaring through the upper clouds. Missiles locked. His wingmen followed in staggered arcs, on her scope. 3 trails arced toward her position like claws closing. Rowan dropped the Apache into a corkscrew dive. The world tilted. The horizon spun. Chaff flared behind her like burning petals. The first missile missed, detonating in the slipstream. The second curved closer, its seeker tone piercing her headset. At the last second, she rolled flat and kicked the rudder hard. The missile clipped her left stabilizer, shredding armor into smoke. The impact spun the Apache sideways. Warning alarms shrieked again, RPM droop flashing amber. "Hold together!" she shouted, wrestling the cyclic. Her arms burned from tension. Tail rotor vibration hit critical. The cockpit stank of hydraulic fluid and ozone. She steadied the Apache just above the canyon floor, rotors grazing the edge of safety. The surviving Su-27 broke formation, swinging for a perfect kill angle. Rowan smiled grimly. "You shouldn't have split." She thumbed the trigger. The 30mm chain gun roared, spitting molten fire. Rounds walked across the Su-27's belly and detonated its fuel bay. The explosion painted the valley in orange flame. Down below, Bison 6's medic shielded his patient from falling debris. "She got one," someone yelled. Another voice. "We still got 5 hostiles on the ridge." Rowan checked her ammo count, Hellfire 3, Stinger 1. She looked at the countdown, T-0055. Extraction birds were inbound. But the valley was still crawling with hostiles. Then, Manticore's calm voice cut through the chaos. "You're cornered. Captain, you've proven your father right, but you won't live to teach it." His jet swept downward, targeting not the helicopter but the ridge where Bison 6 hid. Rowan's pupils dilated. 2 missiles detached from his wings, cutting twin spirals toward the soldiers below. She didn't think. She pushed the collective full forward, diving between the ridge and the incoming ordnance. "Hold the line," she whispered, the stinger armed with a snap. She aimed not at the jet, but at one missile's heat bloom. The shot left the rail, streaking into the dusk. The sky erupted. The stinger struck its target mid-flight, triggering a chain reaction. A flash of white seared the valley. The second missile veered off course, burying itself harmlessly into sand. The Apache bucked violently. Shrapnel tore through her fuselage. The cabin filled with smoke. Rowan gasped as the harness crushed her chest. Hydraulic pressure 0, RPM 84%. From the ground. A stunned voice crackled through comms. She intercepted a missile. With another missile. Then silence. Rowan blinked through the haze, every breath a rasp. The control stick trembled in her grip, but the rotor still turned. "Barely. Still flying," she whispered, the words slow and raw. Manticore's voice returned. "Quieter now. You're not human." The confidence was gone. What remained was disbelief and fear. "I'm exactly human," she said. "That's why you're losing." He hesitated for 3 seconds. "Then I'm done." His afterburners flared, pulling his jet skyward toward the border. He vanished into the darkening clouds. Rowan didn't follow. Her mission wasn't vengeance. It was survival. Below, Bison 6 crawled from the rocks, dragging the wounded toward the extraction zone. Blackhawks were minutes out. Her Apache coughed smoke but refused to die. She hovered over the ridge, laying suppressive bursts of 30 mm to scatter the last enemy positions. Every burst kicked the airframe harder. Warning lights bled red, one after another. Extraction inbound shouted Bison 6's leader. "Stay up there, Reaper. You're the roof keeping us alive." She smiled faintly under her visor. "Then I'll hold it till you're gone." The valley glowed with embers and dust. Her rotors screamed against the dying wind. When the first Blackhawk arrived, its downwash tangled with hers, swirling grit into a storm. Bison 6 clambered aboard one by one, bloodied, staggering, alive. One soldier, barely conscious, lifted a trembling hand toward the sky. Rowan saw it through her display feed. She tilted the Apache's nose in a slow nod. The gesture said everything words couldn't. As the Black Hawks rose into the horizon, Rowan circled once more, alone against the fire-streaked dusk. The machine groaned beneath her, armor peeled and cracked, but she was still flying. The war, for now, had gone silent. The desert went quiet. Only the slow thump of rotor blades remained, steady and stubborn against the fading wind. Captain Rowan Wraith Pierce leveled her Apache above the ridge, eyes scanning the empty horizon that moments ago had burned like the end of the world. Below, the last of Bison 6 climbed the rope into the waiting Blackhawks. Dust swirled in furious halos around them. The medic, his hands still slick with blood, looked up once more. "She's still there," he whispered, voice thin under the roar. Rowan guided the helicopter into a shallow hover. Hydraulic fluid dripped along the side like tears of oil. Every gauge was bleeding red, but she kept one eye on the departing aircraft. Only when they cleared the valley did she let herself breathe. Her canopy reflected firelight and sky. Beyond the ridges, black columns of smoke marked where the jets had fallen. The battlefield that had once crackled with missiles and radio chatter was now only dust and silence. "Overlord, this is Wraith," she said at last. Her voice was hoarse, nearly gone. Bison 6 extracted. "Airspace clear." Static hissed, followed by disbelief. "Confirm, you're still airborne." She allowed a faint smile. "Barely." The Apache shuddered as she turned south. A trail of dark smoke followed her across the dunes. It took her 3 hours to reach Fort Cavazos, every minute balanced on the edge of mechanical failure. Twice, the RPM dipped so low the rotors almost stalled. Both times, she whispered the same words, "Still flying," and the machine obeyed. By the time the runway lights appeared, her arms were shaking. The landing skids hit hard, bouncing once before settling. The rotors slowed to a tired rhythm. The field was already crowded. Pilots, crew chiefs, and mechanics stood frozen, watching the wrecked Apache roll to a stop. When Rowan opened the canopy, heat poured out. Smoke drifted around her like mist. She unlatched her helmet and stepped down slowly, boots clanging against the scorched frame. For a moment, no one moved. Then the crowd parted as Lieutenant Colonel Davis approached. His eyes swept the damage holes through armor, missing stabilizer, paint burned away. "What you did out there," he said quietly, "doesn't exist in any manual. But after tonight it will." Rowan nodded once. No words felt right. Her mind was still in the canyon, hearing echoes of gunfire and the heartbeat of her dying engine. From the back of the crowd, a man in an F-22 flight suit stepped forward. He looked at the mangled helicopter, then at her. 8 years flying fighters, he said, almost to himself. "I thought we ruled the sky. You just proved us wrong." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some faces were pale, others awed. Rowan didn't speak. She walked past them toward the quiet end of the tarmac where an old service bench sat beneath the tower lights. Her flight bag lay there, patched and faded. Inside it was the notebook, her father's handwriting, still smudged with oil. She sat down, elbows on knees, and flipped through pages filled with diagrams of turning angles and weapon arcs. On the final sheet, one line stood alone. "One day, helicopters will make the sky bow." Her thumb traced the words. Somewhere deep in the hangar, the maintenance crew began shutting down the floodlights. The base settled into the hush that comes after survival, the kind of silence her father used to call earned quiet. Footsteps approached again. Davis stood beside her, this time holding a sealed envelope stamped "classified." He placed it on the bench. "Straight from the Pentagon," he said. "They watched everything through satellite telemetry. What you did wasn't luck, it was proof." Rowan opened the envelope. The header read, "Rotary Air Combat Test Group RAS ETG Commanding Officer Captain Rowan Pierce." Beneath it, a note in formal print established doctrine for close-range air superiority engagement using rotary platforms. She stared at the paper for a long moment. The air around her smelled of fuel and dust, but beneath that was something new possibility. "They're really going to build it," she murmured. Davis gave a small nod. "They want you to train them, to turn tonight into the future." Rowan closed the notebook gently, placing it beside the orders. The words of her father and the signature of the Pentagon lay side by side, past and future, finally aligned. Later that month, under the Nevada dusk, she stood on a fresh tarmac at Nellis Air Force Base. A row of upgraded Apaches gleamed in crimson light, rotor blades glinting like steel feathers. Pilots gathered in silence as she walked past new recruits, waiting for the legend they'd only heard over comms. She stopped at the front of the line, wind tugging at her flight suit. The horizon burned with sunset, the same color as the night she had nearly died. "There's no such thing as impossible," she said softly. But the words carried over the engines, only what no one's dared to try. Engines roared alive, the field thundered with motion. From above, 6 rotors cut through the evening haze like a single heartbeat. The sound rolled across the desert low, endless, defiant. Rowan lifted her helmet, fastened the strap, and climbed into her cockpit once more. As the blades gained speed, the air shimmered with heat and promise. She looked toward the horizon and whispered the words engraved in her father's hand. "Begin." If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating, with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.